Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Jai Shri Gaura Sagira Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chahare Yamuna Tiravana Chahare Jai Shri Radha Jai Jagannath Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe Radhe Jaya Prabhupada 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 Hari Bol Radha ki jai, Iskon Guru Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakti Om Gyantimirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Ayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Pachitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnanda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vadamat Priyama Puro Vibhurjam Akshadiyadam Shapurusha Unkteganan Sudasa Sudasmakam Krishishta Magavan Vacham Sime Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Namo Bhagavate
Training course on Yoga of Success series, which is entitled Believe in Yourself, based on Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. And just to give an idea of what we'll be talking about, we'll read from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized, because this chapter is specifically dedicated to one very important topic which Srila Prabhupada outlined many times and highlighted many times, and which is the foundational understanding of Vaishnava philosophy connected to our today's topic, which is, anyone knows, what is the basis of our philosophy?
That we are not the body?
Yes, that we're not the body, but we're spirit souls in the body. And actually, it is not something which only us understand and know. It is very common knowledge in spiritual tradition. and every single obstacle or every single problem we can. There are a number of texts verses describing the soul. Is text 29. Is amazing, and some here of his amazing, surprising to also find Ascharya-vakta kushalosya labha ascharya-sya gyata kushalanam shishta. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germ, and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful, either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it's a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. It's an interesting statement. One must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. We'll come back to it. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending, like the man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul. The atomic derived full benefit from knowledge, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschit yanam, ascharyavat padati tattaya chanya, ascharyavat chainam anyashrunati, shudpapyana na chaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So, soul is amazing, and this is where all our dormant potential is stored. And of course, we understand that the soul is very minute particle of the Supreme Lord, as he explains himself in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Mamaya Vamsha Jivaloke Jivaputta Sanatana. Krishna is unlimited, soul is limited. That's why we have certain spiritual potential which has limits. We accept it and we understand it. But then we should ask ourselves questions. What is the limit of the soul? What is the limit of the soul's potential? And we can understand that on the level of the universe, there is one personality who is its spiritual potential, or his spiritual potential. Who is that? No, Krishna is super soul. He is the Supreme Lord. But we're talking about individual soul. On the level of universe, who is the most perfect soul? Yes, Lord Brahma. So this is the limit of our potential, to become masters of one universe only. It's pretty significant, right? What kind of potential even the individual soul has, right, to control the whole universe. That's why it's really amazing. And we can only imagine what kind of potential Krishna has. We cannot even imagine what kind of potential unlimited Supreme Lord has. Even if an individual soul has potential to control the entire universe. And so, it's very interesting that there is a lot of research have been done into human potential, and mostly it says that human beings utilize between 3 and 5% of their potential in this life, and outstanding individuals utilize 10%. And so we can understand that at least 90% of that potential is just wasted. It just dies with you, right? Which is, of course, not the best thing, to waste our spiritual potential. And then after understanding these facts, and we don't have to look for examples very far, we can see that even in this life, you can see same kind of people like us who have one head, 2 hands, 2 legs, but they do amazing things, right? And other people, they just live ordinary life, and some people are living very primitive life, right? So some people are very amazing, and some people are just ordinary, and some people are just pathetic, we can say, right? Live pathetic life. And so, why is it that? And we should ask ourselves a question: how can we develop our potential? How can we manifest that dormant powers within us? And of course, Vedic literature is very clear about this point. Fire comes from fire, right? That in the same way as there is a fire in the wood, right? But how do we manifest that fire in the wood? What is the process of manifesting that fire? No one knows?
Well, there are many ways to friction.
Introducing aroma.
Yes. Putting it into the fire. So if you add fire to the wood, then the dormant fire within the wood will come out, right? Simple. So in the same way, our spiritual potential, which is like a fire, this body is like a wood, but the soul is like a fire within the wood. And so this is the example or analogy scriptures are given. And so in order to manifest that fire, or as some devotees say, to be fired up in Krishna consciousness, we need an external fire, right? And we can understand that external fire is Krishna. Yes, Krishna is external fire, and that fire is maintained and developed by the devotees, right?
Fiery association.
Fired up devotees, yes. So that's very clear understanding Srila Prabhupada gives us, Vedic scriptures give us. But as he mentions in the purport, it's not enough just to theoretically practice, theoretically understand it. It's really important to practice these things. And to some extent, all of us have experience of that. How? By chanting his holy names, Maha Mantra especially, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We see many changes which are happening in our lives. And by those changes we can understand, okay, the fire is manifesting, the process is working, right? And we can also see that that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Yayathamam prapadyante tas tathaiva bhajamyaham, that as they surrender unto me. It's really important to reflect on this point, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share from your personal experience. Okay, let me see the show of hands. How many of you are chanting Hare Krishna mantra regularly? Okay, majority of you. And so, my question to you is, mantra. No one experienced. Okay, all right.
Just want to talk about more spiritual things with people, have deeper conversations.
So what is the change? Spiritual knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, gaining spiritual knowledge. Anything else? Anyone else wants to share? Gaurav.
It has brought me more clarity about what I'm doing with myself, my life. Given me more control over how I want to drive my life.
Okay, self-control and clarity of thought. Very good. Anything else? Any other positive changes, Philippe?
There's more juice in life, like more happiness.
More happiness, definitely, yes. And Philippe is a good advertisement for it. Looks very happy. Yes.
Happy family.
Happy family life, yes, good. Anything else? Detachment, yes.
Well, you start introspecting the purpose of your existence.
Okay, introspection into the purpose of our lives, very good, yeah. How many people can understand it or even think about it? Any other positive changes?
You do become more reflective because you have that understanding that there is more to than just the immediate. I think that comes with the philosophy of Hare Krishna, but chanting itself calms the mind down, so you have the opportunity to not be impulsive.
Okay.
And think through.
Naturally, yes. This is what mantra means, right? Ability to control our minds. Yes, good. Anyone else? Maybe any ladies? Or there are no benefits, ladies feel? No one can think. Yes, knowledge, definitely. Actually, there are so many benefits. And it's one exercise which I highly recommend all of you to do, and it's called Count Your Blessings. And it's very interesting analysis, just sit down and think how many things have changed for better since the time you started chanting Hare Krishna. You'll be surprised to find. When I've done that exercise a few years ago, I came up with a list of 108, but I realized I could be just going on and on, but I really like the number. And so I've decided, okay, let's keep 108. But to be honest, the first point I put on the list was having so many friends all over the world, which is like amazing, right? That you can come anywhere on the planet. Like last year, it was my first visit to Melbourne. I practically didn't know anybody here, But because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, you are chanting Hare Krishna, it's so easy to become friends, right? Because we have so much in common, everything, right? And and it's really important for ourselves to have that clarity. And sometimes you could be asked by somebody like, you're chanting Hare Krishna, and Hare Krishna just 3 words, basically speaking, right? In different combinations. And you just repeat those words for like 2 hours every day. Like, what's the point? What does it give you? And you should be able to clearly explain what it gives you. And I was thinking that out of so many benefits, there are 4 which are kind of very prominent, you can say, and they can be summarized in the acronym LIFE. And so life means 4 points, right? And first, starting with L, is love. And love, of course, the topmost goal of our spiritual advancement is to develop pure love for the Supreme Lord, which is very rare, right? That someone has that love. Of course, you can like Krishna, you can have appreciation, gratitude towards Krishna, all these things are there, but to really develop pure love takes a lot of time and effort from our part to purify ourselves. But even though pure love of God is something, is kind of distant goal, but it's interesting that we have love from the first day. Love towards all of us, become interested in devotional service because at some point you start feeling that someone's really looking after me. Someone's really taking care of me, someone's really protecting me, right? Someone's guiding me. Who is that? And you feel that person, whoever is he, is doing so much for me, so I could be also doing something, right? And so this is how devotional service begins, the idea of devotional service. So Krishna's love, God's love, which manifests in so many ways, right? How many of you feel that it's really there, that even though I may not have pure love for the Supreme Lord, but He definitely has love for me, and He looks after me, He takes care of me in so many ways and protects me. Yeah. So, and then the more we reciprocate with that love, the more we develop our love for Krishna. And so, this is major benefit, right? Love, divine love. Loving relationships with someone who is eternal and who is perfect, right? And it's really amazing to have this kind of relationships with the Supreme. I mean, to even have relationships with someone who is like very highly positioned in this society, on this little planet, is very special, right? But to have loving relationships with the Supreme Lord, my God, for a while, and sometimes some devotees are invited to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen, and of course they have some, or have royal food and have royal association. But if we think about it, what does it mean to come to the temple? It's to come to divine palace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and have divine association and have divine food, which is prasadam. But, it's just a matter of realizing the extent of our great fortune. And so this is the second benefit, stands for immortality, and it is something which is quite easily available for devotees. Of course, we're all immortal as spiritual beings, but devotees do realize that, and so the fear of death is, something which devotees don't have, which is quite amazing, right? And many times it really surprises materialistic people, like how come that these people are not only afraid of death, but they're quite happy to die. It's like something unexplainable. Devotees are happy to live and happy to die also. And materialists are living miserable lives, and death means even more misery. So completely opposite, right? Because yes, devotees are happy to have association with Krishna and his devotees and serving them in this lifetime. And they gain so much in this life, but upon leaving their body they realize now the real fun begins, right? Eternal life full of knowledge and bliss with Krishna. And so a devotee is just looking forward to that. And many times devotees are dying with happy smile on their faces. And if it happens in some hospital, it really confuses all the doctors and nurses, what happened to that person. And so, and F stands for freedom, and there are many, many levels of freedom. And if you think about it, already now you have certain aspects of freedom which you gain as a gift from Krishna, right? Anyone can think of any types of freedom you enjoy already now because of Krishna consciousness? Because materialistic people, they just act under the modes of, under the impulses, right? Under the instincts. But devotees, Krishna gives them so much freedom of choice. Yeah, it's true. Any other types of freedom?
Freedom from addictions?
Yes, exactly. How many people are suffering from so many addictions, drugs, drinks, etc., etc. And for devotees, like, we're free from this stuff.
Freedom from attachments?
Yeah, freedom from attachments. Exactly, yes.
Freedom to serve Krishna in unlimited way.
Yeah, myself to Krishna, the more choices Krishna just gives me, I can do whatever I want, right? And sometimes even materialistic people become so jealous of that, right? I remember one time I was flying, taking a long haul flight from Europe to Canada, and I was sitting next to one Swiss young man, and he, it's like 10 hours flight or something like that, so you're sitting next to a person, you might as well, kind of strike a conversation. And so I was asking who is he, what he's doing, and he said he's, what do you call it, stylist, one who is like making design, haircuts and all, stylist, right? So he's like high-range professional in styling, and he was flying to Toronto to take part in international stylist competition. And of course, being Swiss man, and Switzerland is one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. I think it's third, according to the like statistics of the top high, top average salaries, etc. Highly paid and highly paid. And he was kind of asking, okay, you're flying around, you're teaching, etc. No one pays for anything. And he said, but where the money is coming from, you have to pay for yourself. I said, well, I'm just trying to be useful to people, and so they do appreciate, and so they support, give donations, and that's quite enough to continue flying. And he said, okay, but who is deciding where you should fly and what you should do? Anyone would, do anything, even kill anyone to have this kind of, position in life. No work, just do whatever you want and fly anywhere you like, etc. Just, so much freedom. And so the more we surrender unto Krishna, the more freedom we have. Yes, freedom is really big on the list. And then if you achieve perfection, then, Narad Muni, right? He's the perfectly free range traveler, right there. He can go to the spiritual material world anywhere. Heavenly planets, hellish planets. He is welcomed everywhere. And so, and E, which is the last letter in the acronym LIFE, stands for Enlightenment. We can see that it is very traditional that on any painting, it's like not just typical to Vaishnava tradition, it's everywhere. In any tradition, you look at the paintings of Jesus Christ and other saintly personalities, they also always depicted with a halo, with the light emanating from their heads, right? Because it is true that it's the light of the soul, and we know from witness accounts that Srila Prabhupada was emanating that light as well, golden light, because he's the devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and it was so obvious. Sometimes we can say, oh yeah, the practitioners, they are brainwashed into famous episode. Early in the morning, Srila Prabhupada takes walk in London, and then a lonely policeman stands on the street corner, and they pass by, and then suddenly he drops his position and he runs behind and catches up with Shyama Sundar Prabhu, and he tells him, who is that elderly man? And he says, well, this is our spiritual master, our guru. And policeman says, it's unbelievable. This man is glowing like a sun. Just ordinary policemen could see that light emanating from Srila Prabhupada. And so, yes, that enlightenment, this is another huge benefit which is connected to our spiritual practices. And so, next time, if anyone will ask you, what does Hare Krishna give you? You can tell them, it gives me life. And it is true in, as an acronym and as direct statement as well, because many devotees realize that, if there is no Krishna consciousness, there is no meaning of my life, right? This is the only thing which makes my life meaningful. And so, yes, there are many amazing things. And we recommend that you reflect on that, and you can see how it's happening, that even amongst the devotees, that those who are more serious apply themselves much greater. Sometimes, like just life full of miracles, right? But how come that it's like this means festival every day? And devotees looked in disbelief what he's talking about. and I'll be going to the next place. And so it is like that according to how seriously we apply ourselves to the process, we gain the results, right? And that's why you can see few devotees, but the level of, few devotees can live in completely different realities, right? So that's also there. And the first and foremost thing, which is really, really important for us, is to take advantage of the fundamental process in spiritual advancement, and that is sadhu sangha. Right? Sadhu sangha means saintly association, and of course for that we need to recognize and appreciate at least devotees, starting with that, as wonderful personalities. And I think many of you do that, many of you do appreciate that fact that there are many amazing people in Krishna consciousness, right? Yes, the kind of people you can hardly ever meet in ordinary life. But in Krishna consciousness it all becomes available. All these, the advantages of association. And devotees, those devotees, especially those devotees who are serious in their spiritual practices, they exhibit amazing spiritual qualities, right? How many of you have seen that? All right. And that's why the scriptures, such as Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, they are full of the glories of not only the Supreme Lord, but also glories of the devotees. And the process continues. Have read Prabhupada Lilamrita, going through so many hardships without any complaints, nearly dying in the process. It's like the path of the hero, right? There is some book there which explains that every single hero has the same kind of path, and every single hero goes through like so many obstacles and hardships and struggles, and then emerges victorious. And so it's like 100% applicable to Srila Prabhupada's life. And of course Srila Prabhupada trained up many wonderful disciples who are also exhibiting amazing feats in Krishna's service. And they give their association and they encourage other devotees. And so we also have wonderful devotees in each community, including Melbourne community, right? And so we can benefit ourselves by glorifying and appreciating those devotees, right? So anyone knows any devotee in this community, maybe even in this temple room, who is impressing you with some wonderful spiritual qualities? Yes?
All of them. I know all of them.
Not someone specific. It's good to be specific, that which devotee is especially...
Person sitting in front of you.
Philip.
Yeah.
Okay, you want...
I'm feeling so patient. Everything. We work so hard, and there's a restaurant called Crossways. We work so hard. These guys work like, and they don't complain actually.
Okay.
Even when they are sweating, even when they are actually doing 4 people of work by single hand, they
Mm.
don't complain actually, and they're laughing actually.
Mhm.
And even after, like, I've seen them doing like 200, 400 dishes, cleaning dishes, and they're still happy. Like, seen her, like, she works so well, coordinates everyone well, everyone's listened to her, and without any complaint, without any, like, it's amazing to see them. And they're happy. They do nothing actually,
Mm.
but they are so happy. Like, it's good to be with them actually.
Mhm. It's very interesting, right? This is the secret of happiness in Krishna consciousness. Be always absorbed in the service. Nice, thank you. Anyone else wanted to share any inspiring qualities you see in the devotees in this community? Yes.
I see Gaurav Prabhu very inspiring. Gaurav Prabhu is like, we haven't met before, the met recently, but I feel that the clarity of his diction, the way he wants to express his ideas, whenever somebody has a doubt, he has a clear, specific, and very humble way of answering things, which we would not find much around.
Yeah, I know Gaurav for quite a few years from Mayapur, and he's always been like super enthusiastic, humble, and always absorbed in so many responsible and high-level services. And so I kept telling him, you have such a huge potential. You could be doing so much more than you're doing now. Yeah. Very impressive person. Thank you. Anyone else wanted to share? Philip.
I'm very sad to fall in love with him. Because always when I meet him, always when I speak with him, even before I was a devotee, he always used to speak about Krishna, and I remember even before I became a devotee, I was really inspired that he's giving his whole life to God, and I was thinking, wow, this is, like, you don't find many people like that.
Yeah. Param Brahma is very enthusiastic and very humble. Every time I come, I borrow his harmonium and he gladly...
He's not here, nobody's visiting India.
I think he came for a little earlier for Gaura Artik. Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. Someone really powerful but very humble. That's not happening too often. Prabhu?
I've been coming to the temple for the last 6 months regularly, and there's everyone around here. They just, as everyone's saying, they're just so happy. And no matter how many sorrows or struggles I'm having, but when I come here, it just gives me a different perspective. It just makes me realize, you know what, life is more than the problems that you face in the material world. I would really like to thank Mukesh Prabhu, who's been here for me in the last 6 months, and all the gang that he's got. And especially I would like to thank you from Monday when I was here, and a couple of things you taught me is just amazing, and the energy that you bring here, it's amazing. I would really like to
Thank you.
Listening your lecture, his life is completely changed.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
I would like to say about Prabhu, who used to give Mangalacharia lectures. He is really an excellent Prabhu. He is very humble. Like, whenever you have some doubts, you could go to him and he can answer those doubts and very politely.
Yeah.
Nice to be with him.
Free professional counseling. Doesn't exist in the material world. Yeah, Adipurusha. Yeah, I know him. Thank you.
Which is like the cream of the cream of the cream. That this monk is like the cream of the intelligentsia in India. And he is so down to ground, so easy to relate with. He's got no air around him. Which is, I mean, it talks what this does to you. It just makes you such a wonderful human being. You won't have access to such intelligent people, just so randomly. So I find it really inspiring.
Now I feel jealous of Melbourne community that you have such wonderful devotees. Yeah, it's quite amazing that this is what Bhagavad Gita speaks, right? That the first symptoms of knowledge are humility and pridelessness, and so we can see that. Thank you for sharing. I didn't know much about Gaur Lila Prabhu, so thank you for sharing.
Philip changed his life so much in the last couple of years, and showed my parents around, and it's really nice, and like brought me here today lots of times.
Philip is under attack today. But one thing I wanted to point your attention to is that normally we do not glorify devotees like that because there is some superstition about it, right? About glorifying the devotees. And what is the superstition?
They will become puffed up.
Yeah, that devotees will become puffed up. Okay, let's ask those whom, devotees spoke about, like Gaurav, Philip, Param Brahma Prabhu, Gaura Lila, others. Anyone feels puffed up now? Okay, Philip wants to tell how you feel. Well, if you feel puffed up, you could kind of, express yourself. But your body language doesn't speak about that. So how do you feel? What are the thoughts which were crossing your mind when devotees were talking about you?
I'd like to be in the center.
Okay, well, you're already in the center. But what were the thoughts? Were you thinking that I like to be in the center, or how nice, finally, devotees are glorifying me? Yes?
But it's nice to appreciate it sometimes.
Nice to be appreciated. But any specific thoughts you had? Okay, let me help you out. How many of you felt when other devotees were speaking things about you? So this is how it is, that actually it's not true, that devotees do not become puffed up, rather it helps them to develop humility. So it's just a superstition, which is completely false. So we have a few more minutes, and anyone has any questions or suggestions on the subject? Or anyone, any feedback? We can do some more exercise.
You said you free soul, it's up to you.
I can see that. Melbourne devotees are pretty smart. But I'm still here for a couple of days. You cannot get rid of me that easy.
We don't want to, we want to keep you here.
Chain me up. Right. Anyone? Yes.
You have something? Thank you, Maharaj. I have a question. Obviously, when we talk about success and we look at it in terms of our own, how we identify ourselves as, whether it is our social position, whether it is our qualification, whether it's our corporate position, whether it's our gender, our parentage, our nationality, our financial status. So all of this more or less relate with our own perception of ourselves. Now you spoke about our biggest potential lies in the spiritual dimension. So while we pursue that spiritual potential, we still have these other roles to play.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sure that while we focus on making the most out of the root, which is the spiritual potential, we don't overlook the immediate, the family, the career, the financially, health?
Well, serving Krishna does not exclude benefiting other people. Rather, if it is real service, then love me, love my dog, right? So if we love someone, we cannot ignore or neglect those who are connected to that person. So if we love Krishna, we should love others as well, because others are Krishna's family members, right? And so if we genuinely developing our Krishna consciousness, we will be acting for the benefit of everyone else, including family, society, nation, and the world. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
Mary, you spoke about enthusiasm, how important it is, how you get enthusiasm. How do you maintain enthusiasm like the way Gauraprabhu has?
How to maintain your enthusiasm? Yes. As just remember one thing, that fire comes from fire, right? So if you want to be enthusiastic, always be in the right association. The way you want to be, find these kind of people and associate with them, right? We should all have our own heroes in life, and if you're really serious, you can find these kind of heroes even in your immediate environment. And so this is one thing, and the other one is, according to the law of karma, like to be enthusiastic. First of all, with one devotee, and he is developing himself as motivational speaker, but he has kind of limited experience in the field. And now there is an opportunity to speak in front of very prestigious audience of professionals, bankers, etc., etc. And he told me that, I really feel a little nervous because I never spoke in front of this kind of audience. And I advised him a very simple thing, that you picture yourself at the end of your presentation, and all your listeners are giving you, like clapping and appreciating everything you gave them. And he said, but how that works? That doesn't mean I have my own powers to do so. I said, no, it's all Krishna, but Krishna is the one who fulfills everybody's desire, right? Desire. First of all, you have to want, they think about what they don't, for example, right? And they kind of tell themselves, I want to quit smoking, I want to quit smoking, quit smoking, quit smoking, smoking continues, right? So if I'm focused on the negative continues. But you focus on the positive alternative and make this very clear picture in your mind. Krishna will fulfill that desire. It's not a problem for Krishna, right? So, therefore, if we want to be enthusiastic, it's very important to ask yourself the question, what makes me enthusiastic? What makes me happy in Krishna consciousness, right? What is that situation in which I really feel enthused? And so this is one thing, and Krishna will fulfill that desire for sure. And the other one is do on others what you want others to do to you. Whatever ways you want others to inspire you, you do this to others, right? And so you get similar reciprocation. So with these two methods, you can be enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. Yes?
I
clarity, breathing. But then it's our responsibility to, it's our responsibility to do something which will shift us from the position of the spectators into the position of those who take responsibility for service, right? So, if, like in the purport we've read on Monday, Srila Prabhupada says that if devotee is in a good position, he thanks Krishna and he is using that good position to improve or to serve Krishna even better. So, instead of enjoying our advantages, our fortune, we should ourselves and also others. In distress, we can only benefit ourselves by our, surrender to Krishna. But if we have advantageous position, we can benefit not only ourselves but others. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
Is it okay to tell other people who has no connection with this God to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Like give them leads and asking them to chant Hare Krishna Mantra. They don't have any connection with this God or Hare Krishna movement.
What's the question? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Hare Krishna mantra does not depend on anything because it's Krishna. And so, for example, when I was introduced to the Hare Krishna mantra, I had no idea. Just tried it and it worked. Still working. And so now, of course, I know what, the science behind all these mysteries. But it works for everyone. It worked for myself. I gave that to my parents. It worked for them as well. So it works for everybody. So yes. Yes.
A little off-track question. Would you kindly share the significance of carrying the staff with you?
Oh, this is called Sannyas Donda, and it's signified. So it's a traditional symbol of. All right.
In which year did you get this Prabhu?
2016.
Because I saw your video like father and like son.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's April 2016.
It was really.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, March 2016. Right? Really, union in communist country that the access to spiritual knowledge was practically closed, and I was trying to get any sources to find out little more. And so one time I came across one communist pamphlet on different dangerous cults which exist in horrible Western countries. Right? And so I decided to get this pamphlet and read about these dangerous cults, hoping, and of course I was taking that pamphlet already in a critical way because I knew that communists are all atheists and they hate God and they hate everything spiritual, and that's why they blaspheme everyone who is practicing anything spiritual. But I was trying to, kind of separate grains from the husk and get some understanding of what people practice. And a few groups were described in this pamphlet. And of course, so many bad things were hateful way, in the most critical way. and by the description I think you will understand whom we are talking about, that the author wrote that of all the cults, this is the worst, because there are no normal people in this cult. Everybody in this cult is completely crazy, and the proof is that they don't even dress like normal people, that men are wearing bed sheets and ladies are wearing curtains, and they all smear dirt on their foreheads, and men are shaving their heads, but not completely. Some part of the heads remain unshaven. And in this crazed way, they go out on the street and they harass the people on the street, trying to get some money out of people and trying to push some books in exchange for the money, which no one can understand. And if they get completely frustrated with, their attempts, they sometimes shout in agony, or sometimes murmur meaningless words. And the meaningless words were quoted in that article, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like that. So I was thinking, wow, this is interesting. Of course, immediately I could understand that these are all lies, because crazy people, first of all, they will not be able, and yes, it was described that they don't live like normal people, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't eat meat, torture themselves like that. Things like that were described. Because, in Russia, someone who is not drinking Russian vodka, that's such a self-torture. It's like unbelievable, right? And so I was thinking that it's obviously a lie, because no crazy people would ever be able to follow any discipline. But obviously this group of people, they are following very specific rules, very specific discipline, so they cannot be crazy. This is one thing. And then, of course, crazy people can shout some meaningless words, possible, but why do they shout the same words, all of them? So then I thought, no, that it is not true, that these words must have meaning. And the meaning of these words must be pretty deep. And I have to find out what is the meaning of Petersburg, which is like cultural capital of the country. And one of my friends said, yes, that I am in touch with them. They are in our city. And this is how it started. And it's a long story that we wouldn't be able to tell in details, but this was the first encounter through the blasphemous pamphlet.
How many years ago?
84, so it's more than 30 years ago, 34 years ago. Yeah. All right, so I want to introduce you to one other, we can say, technications and as well. And one of the communities which we are very close friends with, even though this is Christian community, is in Los Angeles. And this community, they belong to the New Thought Christianity. And this is a very amazing type of Christians, because they are completely open and have huge respect for other spiritual practices, other traditions, and especially this group. His name is Michael Beckwith, and this group is called Agape. They call themselves Agape International Spiritual Center. and he's very, amazing spiritual practitioner, and he is so inspiring that even many Prabhupada disciples, they visit that community and they take part in their services, etc. And vice versa, he comes to us, and he's vegan, so he loves prasadam, etc. And by the way, they also follow the same revolutive principles. And he's even preaching from Bhagavad Gita sometimes, saying, this is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, he's using all the scriptures because they're open to all traditions, like that. And I shared about this community with one Prabhupada disciple who haven't been there, and he became interested. And this is very, very old and very senior Prabhupada disciple who's joined the movement from 69 and did a lot of services to Prabhupada directly and to the movement, etc. And he's actually film producer working in Hollywood. And so he became interested in that community, and he said, I want to have an experience of what they do. And then we went, and then later he gave me a feedback. He said, just a greeting, give you an idea. That, would you like to try? Yes. So I will not be telling you what it's all about, because it's better that you experience personally. Pairs in front of each other, facing each other, and I will ask you to repeat few words after me, looking at each other, but again, we would have to repeat those words with feeling from the heart, right? Really mean what we say. Okay? Ready? No, with open eyes and looking at each other's face, right? Okay. So we'll be basically welcoming each other. That's all we'll be doing. But try to welcome each other from the heart. Okay? Looking at each other. Ready? You don't have to look at me. Just listen and repeat what I'm saying. Okay, ready? Welcome to the temple. I recognize you. I see who you truly are. You are the spiritual image in the very likeness of Krishna, a unique emanation of beauty, love, and divine intelligence. Indeed, you are one of a kind, wonderful, one of a kind, magnificent, brilliant, unfolding genius. And today, we will get to celebrate your very existence. We'll celebrate your infinite potential. I appreciate you, and I thank Krishna for you. Welcome to the Hare Krishna temple. Haribo. All right, that's it. Okay, I can see how the energy immediately changed in the room. Anyone wanted to share any thoughts or feelings?
Prabhu, I want to share.
Yes, Maharaj.
I was supposed to say this before, I don't know whether it's Prabhu. Because we used to sit very close, day by day when I come to temple. So whatever the words you say, I'm supposed to say before, but I don't know. Now I say it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else wanted to share? Yes.
I happened to talk to the person who actually introduced me to Hare Krishna. So it was so touching for me because of the person I am here is him. And
Good.
It was nice to.
So you could appreciate him from the heart, right? Very good. Anyone else?
Are you seeing the super soul within the guest who's coming in? So he's also soul and vibration.
Yes.
Good answer.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It helps to bring out the goodness within us and also help to see the goodness within other people.
Okay, it's helping to bring out goodness in ourselves and in others. Good. Anyone thinks it should be done regularly? Yes? Yeah. And you don't have to do it in formal way, you could just, do it in personal way, personally. Appreciating others. Do you feel how it increases the spiritual energy? Yeah? Why? Because you are addressing each other not as a body, but as the soul, right? So this is what we call sadhu sangha. And so the more of the sadhu sangha we have, the more we will all advance spiritually. All right, so we'll be finishing soon. We only have 4 minutes left. Yes?
Can we have these wordings printed out?
Yeah, sure. If I have your WhatsApp or something, I can forward it to you if you like. All right, so if there are no more questions, we'll be finishing here, and I suppose most of you I'll see next time, whenever I'll see you. So,
Lecture probably in which country?
sorry?
In which country your next visit?
Well, I'm still in Australia until October 12th, and then Singapore and India are my next destinations. So, thank you all very much for your enthusiastic participation, and we'll be looking forward to see you again. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.